Correct. But something that a lot of people don't know, or you're probably not aware of, because we only live in the actually live in the history that we live in.
Which is being rewritten.
Yeah, we tend not to look at history past. Adolf Hitler was Time Magazine Man of the Year. Yes. He was He was on the cover of Time Magazine. That's right, Obama. He was on the same magazine that you were.
Somebody asked, what's your view on abortion?
What's my view on abortion? I don't think that... I'm kind of a... I guess I would say I'm a little more liberal on it, in the sense that I think that it should be an option. But I think it should be an option, but I think people should not live in the fantasies of what abortion is and pretend that people are having abortion because they were raped, or they think that the child's going to have 4 heads, or things like that. That is not the industry that is abortion right now. People are having abortions.
Birth control.
Well, truthfully, because they're selfish. Because people are selfish and they do not want to have that burden, and they would rather continue to live the life that they're living. And what you're going to find is,
close that door all the way.
You know, and this is in the Democratic Party, or liberal, in the liberal sense of the mind, targeting underprivileged, lower income. When I say lower income, I mean poor neighborhoods. You will find that there's more access to abortions in those neighborhoods than anywhere else. And the reason why is because they're trying to destroy that population. The African community, and just an example, the African community, I know this is not my opinion, but the African community has been 13% of the United States population for the last 100 years. Why has their population not increased? Why? Well, because they have the most abortions per capita than any other race in the United States.
That's eugenics. Eugenics started, it was to weed out retardation. It was the retards. It was anything like that. That's what it was for. It was to weed that out. If we take that out of the population, every time it shows up, we sterilize the parents. We remove those people from being able to breed, and that's what it was. And then it moved on to coloreds, and really Margaret Sanger's, who I couldn't think of earlier. It's Margaret Sanger. And that is still to this day the exact same charter that Planned Parenthood is. They just changed a couple of words. You can read it word for word. It's the same fucking thing. In, what was it, 2004? There's a date. Find it. You can easily Google this and find it. There were more abortions than black children born in that year.
It's a lot of years.
A lot of years.
Yeah.
So Google that shit. Yes, it's easier there. I think it should be a choice. Kind of a don't ask, don't tell. Fucking don't rub it in everybody's fucking face. If you're gonna do it, fucking do it. If we want to control it and you're using it as fucking birth control, maybe you get your free one, your second one after, whatever it is. Like if you're gonna, and that's another thing like welfare. If we're gonna pay for your fucking kids, your kids that you're fucking having.
Are you pointing at Mrs. Dunbar?
I'm pointing, yeah. No, I'm just, that's where the camera's at. If you don't want to be pointing at, step aside. If we're paying for your kids, you get a free one. But your second one, you come in, if we're paying for your delivery, your birth, whatever the fuck it is, your second one, we'll deliver that motherfucker too. But you're getting sterilized right then. You're not having any more fucking kids. You don't like it, then fucking find some way to fucking pay for it. And if you're opting to have a child without the father having a say, I don't think you should have to pay fucking child support on it. Like, you're going to have that fucking second kid, and baby daddy, like, I don't think fucking he should have to fucking pay for that motherfucker. You want to have a fucking kid, and you're opting to have it without his fucking consent, I think he should have some say in that matter. I don't think it's your fucking body, your fucking right. I don't believe that for one fucking second. If you don't like it, I don't fucking care. If you don't like it, please leave some fucking comments. If you do like it, please leave some fucking comments. But I think the father should have a say in that.
I'm the same way you are, but my reasons are reversed. In the sense of, the way I feel is, if it's a woman's right to have an abortion, so if it's a woman's, it's her body, it's her right to have an abortion. I'm with you. You know what? You go and do whatever you feel necessary. But I also feel that if that's the case, if you're going to stand on that pillar, if you're going to stand on that pillar that it's my body, it's my right, then it has to be both ways. Meaning, If you decide to have a baby, it can't be now his responsibility to take care of it. It can't be his financial burden now to take care of it because you made that decision. I also think that it should not be their financial responsibility to take care of that child because you have made this decision that you say it's your body, it's your right, you can have an abortion. If I don't have a say in said abortion, meaning if the father does not have an opportunity to go, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to be financially responsible for this child, but I still want to take on that challenge.
So you want to make her you want to make her have it if you want to.
I still am willing to take that challenge on. I think that has to be part of the discussion because ultimately,
so we can make her carry that baby for 9 months.
I don't want to say make, but I'm saying right now you have no choice.
No,
so right now, if
you have no say in the matter whatsoever.
Right now, if Mrs. Dunbar has a child with her significant other, and she decides she wants to have an abortion, Mr. Dunbar has no say in the matter. She can walk into that clinic, she can have that abortion, and it's her legal right because it's her body.
Correct. And
he has no say.
And in any circumstance, he has no fucking say.
Yeah, he has no say. So
whether she wants to or doesn't want to.
She decides to keep it?
Yeah.
Well, I take it back in the sense that if she decides to keep it, let's say Mrs. Dunbar is like, you know what, I'm going to have this baby. He becomes immediately financially responsible for that child for the rest of his life until he's 18.
1000%.
So why don't you have say in both sides? That's my thing.
With that said, I don't have any fucking kids that I'm paying for that I didn't have a say in the matter. Like, I'm not. That's not the situation. But I think the dude should have a fucking say. Like, if you're gonna go and fucking, or if I had an abortion or whatever the fuck it was, or I had a miscarriage, and then fucking 3 years later you pop up with a fucking kid. The state of California, and I'm sure many states, will go back and not only are you fucking paying right now forward, you're paying all that from the fucking time of fucking delivery.
And I know it's rare.
And there's no, I'm pretty sure that's one of those student loan things. Like, that ain't coming off on a fucking, you're not getting rid of that fucking debt.
And I'm sure it's rare, but there are individuals who, their woman has had a baby, they have taken on that financial support, and come 5 years later, whoops.
5 years, 18 years.
Yeah, whatever. Oops. Well, I'm saying.
By the way, that wasn't your baby.
5 years later, it's not your baby. The state will still make that individual responsible for that child, even though it's not his.
100%.
There's no laws. There's no laws that govern females that way.
Why does she not? And why can she not? Because the male can be hauled into court and fucking imprisoned. He can be put in jail, but there's no repercussion for her. You have text messages of her going, hey, motherfucker, that ain't your fucking baby. Thanks for paying 18 years. She doesn't have to pay none of that money back.
Well, even like I said, let's say that child's only 6 years old, and you have suspicion because he's more Mexican than whatever, or whatever,
he's black, or fucking whatever.
And you get a DNA test. You get a DNA test, and it's 100% not yours. The state will still make you take care of that child.
If you look that shit up,
the state will still force a male to take care of that child. None of that stuff
because
applies
that's
to
what
women.
The child knows.
Yeah.
The child sees you as his parent.
So none of that applies to
women. You were willing to do it then, you can do it the rest of the years.
So I guess my ultimate statement there would be that an abortion is something that is between two people. If two consenting adults can go into a place and go somewhere and have sex and create a child, then two consenting adults need to be in on that decision, and it needs to be between them, and they need to make the decision of whether or not they're going to have that child. I don't know how you enforce that, because the woman can go in and say,
well, I'm not rape, accident, don't remember, fucking drug, whatever it is. But I don't think you can talk about one without talking about both.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there's not going to be problems with that, and it's not legally enforceable. But right now, the rhetoric from everyone is her body, her right. Nobody ever talks about fathers, or nobody ever talks about the people who will be financially responsible for that child if it is brought into the world. And I'm not saying that children should be aborted. I'm just saying If that's a decision you're going to make, that should be between the two people who did it, not the fucking state or anybody else. It's nobody else's damn business. Unless there are extenuating circumstances.
And I'm sure there's a bunch of crazy adoption laws for, reasons in the past, but the adoption laws are pretty fucking crazy right now.
Hell yeah.
There's a lot of fucking kids. There are a lot of fucking homes fostering kids where they get $1,100 per kid and they've got fucking 10 kids. There's a lot of abuse in the fostering system. But those fucking kids where some fucking people want them. I mean, there's people trying to get fucking children, and you hear the fucking horror stories over that shit. Why is it such a fucking problem for some, like, do a background check? I mean, fucking, do your due diligence, but it's fucking absolutely insane the amount of money it costs to fucking adopt a child. It's literally, you see people going overseas to get fucking kids to bring them back here for lesser fucking, it's like, that's where the money is. You want to start a fucking business? Start a fucking adoption agency. It's fucking insane the amount of money that changes hands over fucking children when there's fucking kids all over the place that people don't want. Fucking reform that shit. Stop making fucking kids you don't want.
Or can't afford, more importantly.
Can't afford, I think, yeah. You want to come in and get on fucking state assistance? We're going to pay for one of your kids? Okay, I get it, one. Second one, okay, we'll pay for that, but you're not having another fucking kid after that. There's no more coming. But God forbid, we can't do that.
Anyways.
Alright,
Abortion.
cut. That's what we think. That's what he thinks about abortion.
36% of all abortions are black.
Only 36.
But they make up fucking
13% of the
13%
population.
of the population, and
So that
half
means
of that's male
everybody.
female. So it's really
Yes, that
6% of the population. Well, I guess that's everybody.
That means you probably don't know
What's the other breakdown?
any black women that have not had an abortion.
19 million black babies have been aborted since Roe versus Wade.
But
And
what's the
73.
breakdown? If 19% is black, what's the biggest number? It's got to be white, right? Probably not Mexican because they're Catholic.
So I'm just trying to figure out the dates here. It's saying white had, in that same time frame, had 11,000, but their population's 7 million. Wait, population. Oh, this is just Michigan.
See the number. I don't give a fuck about all the other numbers. I want to know. In 1 year, there was this many abortions. Where's the fucking pie chart? Who had the most? Who had the second? Who had the third? Because you can break it down by inner city, and it's going to be fucking black.
Yeah, so black had 12,000, whites had 11,000, other had 1,400.
So
And
black
Hispanic
families
had
followed by
600.
white families, but you have way more white families in every fucking area. And that's not saying black people you're wrong. That's fucking.
It's just percentage of population.
That's the man.
You have a lower.
That is the man.
You have a lower population in the United States than.
And I don't mean the man of the household.
Europeans.
I mean that is the puppet master.
Than Europeans. So when you have a higher rate of abortions, that means that you're honestly you're being targeted.
Yeah, and you are being targeted. Everybody's you're being targeted by somebody for something. I know when I was looking at all the eugenics stuff, I didn't start looking at eugenics. I started looking at asylums, and they were hunting in asylums. That's where all the fucking Nazi Operation Paperclip, all that shit. Those Nazi doctors nested in asylums and continued all their shit. Hitler was very, very interested. Hitler didn't start the Jew thing. Like Hitler wasn't the first person to publish and start talking about fucking literally eliminating a population. That was the United States. We did that shit. The United States did that, and it was the eugenics program. It was Margaret Sanger. Before Sanger was even there, there was a doctor who was a world-famous chiropractor. They called him, I cannot fucking remember his name. I want to say he's in West Virginia. The hospital is still there today. There is an asylum. There is a child's asylum. And then there's a hospital, all named in his name. And they're actually refurbishing a lot of this fucking place. And they called him the General. It wasn't the General. Something like the General. And he actually met with Hitler multiple times. There's multiple fucking recorded conversations with him about the eugenics program. Who is the look up father of eugenics and see who comes up. But there's a dude who's up until, I want to say like the 90s, there's actually some fucking tape of this dude doing cranial sacral manipulation. Your skull is made up of many pieces. And there was some footage of this dude talking about how he can manipulate the sinuses and pull on different parts of the skull and cure sinusitis and sinuses and all kinds of shit just from cranial manipulation of the ears and different parts of the head. And I found it fascinating because I'm like, fuck, man, maybe that's what, because I'm always stuffed up on one side or the other constantly, no matter what I fucking take. And I remember thinking, and as I looked more and more and more into it, started reading the comments, all the comments were like, this dude met one-on-one with Hitler. There are photos of this dude with Hitler. This is the father of eugenics. It was fucking wild, and that those buildings and those structures are still there today. And there's dudes doing urban exploration on part of them, and part of them are still working. And he was sterilizing people up until the 60s. They were sterilizing women, and it was single, unwed mothers, all black patients that came through. They were sterilizing. They had a program in the prisons. They sterilized up to 50,000 inmates in prison. Just anybody they considered non-desirable. And that's how Hitler started. Hitler first started within the asylums, moved to the prisons, and then it was the homeless, and then it was the prostitutes. If you look that up, don't take what I'm saying. Just look at that yourself. You'll see there's a lot of fucking documentation on that. And we did every bit of that here in the United States too. Yep. And still, it probably still continues. They haven't been caught doing it.
The Hitler thing is weird.
Yeah.
Because when people say Hitler, they're saying it from a hindsight as 2020, meaning you're saying when somebody says, "Oh my God, he talked to Hitler," because
we made Hitler.
Because of it, the hindsight is 2020. You know that Hitler is evil because he already completed what he was doing.
Correct.
But something that a lot of people don't know, or you're probably not aware of, because we actually live in the history that we live in.
Which is being rewritten.
Yeah, we tend not to look at history past. Adolf Hitler was Time Magazine Man of the Year. Yes. He was He was on the cover of Time Magazine. That's right, Obama. He was on the same magazine that you were.
Somebody else in one of the comments on the video said, Germany didn't have a blue water navy. Germany didn't have bombers. Yeah. Germany didn't really have much fucking anything military infrastructure-wise. They actually came and wanted a treaty multiple times. Was it over Versailles or something? Mm-hmm. The British government, fucking the United States, they didn't give him that treaty. He wanted peace. There was many times to have prevented all of that. And the money, the fucking puppet masters, they didn't want that shit. That shit happened. And I'm speaking on something I have not looked into it. I don't know the history of it, but I've heard bits and pieces of that many times.
No, it's true. Adolf Hitler offered peace to the British a bunch of times. At the time when Germany actually took over France, so you got Germany doing the Blitzkrieg, and they actually take France. Adolf Hitler's idea was, in his head, he was going to control Europe. The British could have everything else. He was empire building. You have to understand.
Same thing the British did.
Yeah, you have to understand that the Germany that you know is actually pretty new. So sometime in the 1800s, the German country was created. We go right into World War I. Then we go into World War II. They were actually empire building, just like the British did. He offered a bunch of times for Britain to be like, okay, this is it. You let us control Europe, and you can have all the possessions that you currently have. There was no way Winston Churchill was going to allow that to happen. At the same time, the United States was still very, we didn't want anything to do with the war in Europe. The country did not want anything to do. We were still very isolationist. Roosevelt wanted to get in the fight because he knew that there was going to be a lot of money made. What most people don't understand, what you don't understand is the United States as a country at that time period, we were pretty insignificant. I mean, we had this at the time. They rated our army as like the 7th worst army in the world. They rated us right up there with the Romanian army, and Germany rolled through Romania in like 40 seconds. So we weren't really we were not a powerhouse. We just started becoming a powerhouse financially, but still.
And where'd that money come from?
That money came from England.
Rothschilds.
So yeah, the Rothschilds. But
Rothschilds funded both sides of the war. The Rothschilds gambled. They were very smart. Dudes that gamble big money, they bet on both teams.
Yeah. So that's kind of where Hitler was. Whether or not he would have, and you know, I can see the British. I can see the British point of view is what Adolf Hitler was very good at. Is he was like, no, John, I'm just bringing all these troops over to this place right here next to your house. It's got nothing to do with you. Let's sign this peace pact, and then the next day he'd drive his tanks through your front yard. He was really good at that. But
after you sign the treaty,
yeah, after you sign the treaty, it is common. It is pretty common belief in real historians that his main focus, Adolf Hitler's main focus, was conquer Europe, hold Europe, and attack the Soviets. He hated the Russians.
Why?
Hated the Russians. He had a lot of bad feelings from the Russians from the end of the First War. So he considered them. He really considered them subhuman. If you think that he killed some Jews, he killed a lot of Jews, upwards into 5 million, maybe even as close to 8 million. He decimated the Russians.
Way worse.
Way worse. They were encircling whole army corps and destroying them to a man.
It was first the Russians that he was killing, and the guns didn't kill them fast enough. That's where the ideas of the fucking gassing them, and then what do you do with the bodies?
So I mean, he killed a ton of, you know, he killed the numbers of how many Russians were killed to this day still aren't. Nobody will agree on. We have Europe. Or the Western world has kind of an idea of what we think it is, and then the Russians have a number that's even bigger. But they killed a lot of Russians because he did not like Russians. So the question would be, is if British would have took the peace the peace agreements that he offered, and he went into Russia, would the United States have entered the war to fight Germany? Probably not. The Germans might still be, if Britain would have took the offer, the Germans might still be in control of Europe. Who knows?
While you're pulling all those little threads, look up Nazi medical experiments in Australia. A lot of them went to Australia and continued those experiments on Aborigines. And then also look up the link between Darwin and eugenics, because it wasn't Darwin, it was Darwin's brother, I believe, who was one of the founders. That was all his survival of the fittest and all
right.
that. So while you hear the word Darwin, you don't hear about the other Darwin and all the other shit. History's being rewritten. They're telling you what they want to make it look how they want it, to mold you into a very laser-focused idea, when really the reality is out here. They're just teaching you this, and it's getting less and less. And that's how they're patient. That's how they change society. That's how they change money. It's the elite families have been elite for 200, 300, 400 years. That's how they do that. It's through education. Because they can't come through and just have another war right now, because they would fucking for sure do that. But they can manipulate you. They don't have to change our ideas. They just have to change our kids' ideas. And history is being rewritten, so...
That's kind of what they're doing.
Teach kids.
You know, and another example of why we didn't enter World War II earlier is we had a very large German population here in the United States. A very large, a lot bigger than a lot bigger than the Japanese population on the West Coast. And so he was actually afraid where the majority of their allegiance would lie. I mean, if you declare war on Germany, and you have 1 million Germans inside your borders, that creates a pretty big problem for you as a government. So they were actually kind of concerned about that. I mean, here's something that a lot of you probably don't know. in
United States.
In the United States. In
Time Magazine.
Time Magazine of the year. But in German uniforms, wearing the brown shirts, carrying the swastikas.
Bunch of white folks.
A bunch of Americans paraded down Main Street in New York City and filled Madison Square Garden.
They
filled Madison Square Garden.
They were having summer camps like it was the fucking Boy Scouts.
So, I mean, they were definitely interesting times, but to think that...
what was it called here? Was it the Nazi Party?
Oh, it was the Nazi Party that filled Madison Square Garden. Yeah, swastikas and everything. They actually...
I thought it was People's Republic.
You can actually look that up. Probably, I'll bet Madison Square Garden...
You can definitely see, because when you start looking up all the eugenics shit, all those photos come up.
So, yeah, they filled Madison Square Garden with full-on brown shirt.
And while we took all the Japanese and threw them in internment camps here, I don't believe we did that with
We didn't do anything with the Germans.
Nothing whatsoever.
No, we didn't do anything with the Germans. Just the Japanese. And do you know why we did that?
I don't. Why?
Because I can tell who's Japanese. You can't really tell who's German.
Got it. There was a camp.
So it was totally racist. It was totally racist.
Right here in Paris, there was a camp.
But yeah, a POW camp for Germans. Yeah, they were captured. It's amazing they brought them all the way to America.
In Tennessee.
You'd think there'd be somewhere else that they could keep them, but they brought them all the way to the United States. It was mostly German officers, and apparently, and I've heard this from a couple of people, where they dropped them off. There's a park across the way in Paris, Tennessee. And people with metal detectors, have still found, like, pins and buckles and stuff, because they try to hide that once you're being cataloged. So once you get to your final destination as a POW, all that insignia and crazy stuff you don't want to have on you, because that just helps them figure out who you are.
And while your history is being rewritten, and you're told what the evil devil they are, and I don't disagree with that. Look up how many we fucking brought here. How many of those motherfuckers that you're only being taught the fucking little 1 second hand, the 1 degree of the fucking 60 seconds about the Nazis. Look up. We brought those motherfuckers here. Like, they are still here. They fucking bred. They fucking still continued their programs up until 1960 at UC Davis. I mean, look for yourself. It's there. It's still here.
Yeah, there was actually a couple of pretty big military programs that once we stepped foot in Europe, there was actually a race between the Russians and us and the British on who could collect up the most Nazi scientists. So when you think about Nuremberg, none of the Nazi scientists or engineers went to Nuremberg trials. It's because we, out of national security, the Russians and the British were racing to confiscate as many of those people as possible, so we could get the information, the technology that they were giving to Germany. We would not have gone to the moon if it had not been for the Russians. I mean, the Germans. Sorry,
and it wasn't just the Germans. The Russians have the same program going. It is believed that almost all, the largest part of the unrecovered POWs from Vietnam were moved through and went into Czechoslovakia. And they were said that they had camps in Virginia as well that were doing the same type of stuff, the medical projects. And the Japanese had, I believe it was Project 73 or 173.
The difference here is when the United States was done with these Nazis, so whether it was the rocket programs or any of the aircraft stuff, all the hypothermia stuff we learned from the Germans.
Most of the hypothermia shit actually came from the Japanese.
Once we were done with them, we just released them into the wild.
Be free.
Yeah, we're just like, hey, okay, we made it to the moon. You're good to go. See you later. And we just released them into the wild.
Well, we shot a video that says we made it to the moon.
We made it to the moon.
They love it when I say that.
We made it to the moon. We went to the moon
several times. We can't go to the moon. We lost the telemetry.
This is how you know American went to the moon. This is how you know American went to the moon. 100% American went to the moon, and this is why you need to know this. Because they played golf, they threw a football, and they took a dune buggy up there. Only America would do. Nobody else would do that. Anybody like when
they took that shit to a studio.
When the Japanese go to the moon, they're gonna put their flag in the thing, and they're not gonna build a Walkman radio or leave any of that. No, only America goes up there and like, hey, I got an idea.
The Japanese have fucking orbiters on the fucking moon.
Yeah,
Korea has it. Where are those pictures of that dune buggy at?
They actually have released all the pictures.
And there's no fucking dune buggy.
They have pictures. They actually have pictures of their footprints on the moon.
They have pictures of the same fucking bullshit they showed you on television from the studio.
They had pictures of the footprints of the moon, and, along with India.
India. That's true.
Could anybody think that India has a orbiter around the moon? I did not know that. Here's another thing that you may not know. We have sent all these things to Mars to. How do we get on these tracks? This is just crazy. We've sent all this shit to Mars.
Was a shadow of Optimus Prime.
We have almost a 90% success rate on everything we've sent to Mars. The next closest country is only 25%. So everybody else's shit is blowing up in the air.
Everybody's sending shit to the moon. Fucking 40 years after we fucking went there.
Yeah, you know why? Because they want to do the same thing you're doing. They want to go, you motherfuckers didn't go to the moon. That's why they're doing it.
That's true. You do spend more money and more time on negative shit than you do on positive.
That's why they do it. I guarantee you.
If the motherfuckers took all the time shit talking me and just fucking worked an extra part-time job, they'd be doing what we're fucking doing.
I guarantee you, when that orbiter went around the moon and they saw the landing sites and they saw the garbage that we left behind, because that's what we do. We
like
garbage.
Everest.
Yeah. When they saw all the garbage we left behind, I'll bet you everyone in there was like, God, we wasted all that money? We could have done something else with all that money besides showing astronaut footprints. Here's the other thing about the moon, too, by the way. If you're thinking about making a rocket and going to the moon, it's like international waters. So if you go to the moon and you're cruising around on the moon and you find the dune buggy, you can actually take the dune buggy and do whatever you want with it. You could turn it into moon art if you wanted to. There's no claim to property on the moon.
I would just stack all the rocks up. Every time you go hiking someplace cool,
this is what stacked up. China. This is what I would do if I was you. If I was you, China, this is what I'd do. I would watch our robots on Mars that are going around, and then what you need to do is you need to secretly shoot a missile or a rocket to Mars that is full of Chinese beer cans and other trinkets that you would only find in China. And you need to drop them, have the missile drop them in the path of the rover. So all these people that are watching the rover thing are eventually going to come up on, beer cans from China. It would be hilarious. It would be hilarious.
There's another show I saw about moon rocks that change hands. Moon rocks only supposedly came from one place ever. That was the U.S. landing on the moon. There's rocks on the moon that are only found in the moon that can't be duplicated. They're only from there. But they change hands. They are in private collections. They do come up for sale. The FBI has a huge fucking task force trying to recover fucking moon rocks that have been stolen from NASA or museums or whatever it is. The amount of money they spend to fucking recover those fucking
You know why they're recovering them?
Why?
Because they gave everybody fake rocks.
The petrified wood.
Yeah, they gave everybody fake rocks.
Who gave everybody fake rocks?
The federal, our government. So like, our government is like, hey, Netherlands, you're such a great country. We're going to give you this piece of the moon rock. And they give them this thing with rock in there. And
you'd heard that vote? You'd heard that? See, I didn't hear anything regarding any other countries. There were some employees that worked for NASA were able... What are we looking at?
I keep feeling this draft come through, but it's like sporadic. And it's...
When the door opens. And there's a gust of wind.
Holy shit.
So the show I watched was about like some sting operation. Some dude on eBay finding this shit. So they go and fucking talk to him and meet the dude. And they just start arresting motherfucker. You pull that thread and one gives up the other. And it went back to some employee that fucking got some shit.
Yeah, there's employees that would steal stuff from NASA. But you just have to think, like, if you, let's say you've been...
They're busting motherfuckers right now for some shit 30 years ago.
So you think... if you went to the moon,
which we didn't,
and you took this straw with you to the moon, and you had it in your spacesuit, and then you came back, and you start meeting all these people because you went to the moon, eventually somebody's going to be like, hey, man, what'd you do with that straw? And you're going to be like, oh, here you go.
Even if we went
Here's
to
that
the
straw.
moon.
How many straws do you think they gave out? It's like, I'll give you a good example of that, is you can go to Rome, to the holy city. You can go to Rome, to the holy city, and you can still buy a piece of the cross
Jesus' cross
that Jesus was crucified on. Still
I got a piece.
Still in the holy city, you can still buy. So, yeah, I'm guessing it's probably not real, bro.
Whether you think we went to the moon or not, there's some videos out there. Watch them. Why we didn't go to the moon. Why NASA can't go to the moon. And just watch the interview with the astronauts. Current astronauts, all the way back to fucking... Who the fuck was it? Buzz
Aldrin?
Aldrin. What's the other one?
Neil.
Armstrong. What's the other one?
There's a bunch of them.
There's three on that lander, right?
Tyson.
Right. So when they start asking them questions, they're literally looking at each other like, "What the fuck did we say?" Like they literally, it's like they're fucking took a retard pill. Like just watch the footage that's out there. It's pretty fucking crazy. Like and they'll have you believe in the Earth is flat too. Like
Yes.
there's very very convincing arguments as to why the Earth is flat, why we didn't go to the moon. Just watch them, see for yourself, and then answer the fucking questions like for yourself.
Cats would have knocked everything off of flat Earth. Everything would have got knocked off.
All right, turn that shit off. We got real shit.
Cats. Cat videos.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you. For the record, lab on me going all the way. For the record, ain't trying to link, no time to waste.